Tonight, we are starting a series of profiles of the candidates running in Minnesota's U.S. Senate race. Polls show it's a toss-up right now. One candidate, though, admits he's a long shot. Dean Barkley doesn't have millions of dollars for advertising. He's run before and lost, but he's suddenly a factor this year because, as Pat Kessler shows us, he's not the other guys.
Dean Barkley's political voyage has taken him places great and humble he never thought he'd experience. And from the vantage point of his modest Minnesota pontoon boat, he sees a political system sinking from corruption and neglect.
They're both at fault. This meltdown, they both did it. They're both asleep. Democrats wanted everyone to have a house, whether they could afford it or not, so they looked the other way. And Republicans, their Wall Street buddies, were getting rich, so they looked the other way, and look what we got. We've got a mess.
Barkley's hoping to replicate the success of former wrestler Jesse Ventura.
We shot the world!
Who won an improbable independent victory for governor of Minnesota in 1998. Ventura says many of the circumstances this year are similar.
I think the anger's there. I think the anger's even worse today than it was in 98. And my campaign slogan in 98 was retaliate in 98.
Right. And would it be the same today?
Yeah. I would say it's retaliate in 08.
Ventura appointed Barkley to the U.S. Senate to serve out the last sad days of the late Paul Wellstone's term, and Barkley made the most of it.
Senator Barkley's 62 days in Washington were productive. He helped create the Department of Homeland Security, secured funding for the Paul and Sheila Wellstone Community Center, and he negotiated a deal to bring extra federal money to Minnesota for poor families. But Barkley's days after the Senate hit some choppy waters.
With his independent credentials in hand, Barkley briefly served as campaign manager for Arianna Huffington's California U.S. Senate race. He ran Kinky Friedman's unsuccessful race for governor in Texas. But this year, low on money and no health insurance,
91 to base.
Barkley took a job as a Metro Mobility bus driver.
I went through some rotten times a few years back.
Barkley talks more easily now about what he calls his demons, a recent divorce, his mother's death from Lou Gehrig's disease, and depression.
I was dealing with depression, that it was an issue that I had to deal with. I'm not perfect. I've got faults like everybody else, but I think the good story is I dealt with it, and I'm fine now. And I don't think I'll ever go back now that I uncovered the demons and faced them and got over it. And now I can just live my life and get on with it.
You feel like you're a real person, a real, regular guy?
Well, I always have. I mean, that's people say, how could you drive a Metro Mobility bus? Well, what's wrong with that? I felt good. That was a fun job.
In this year's Senate race, Barkley's making every moment count. He's gone as high as 19% in public opinion polling, ahead of where Jesse Ventura was at this time in his campaign. And at a recent debate, he took aim at Republican Norm Coleman for many issues, including the war in Iraq.
I think that was his first $1 trillion mistake, and the second was his failure to watch over the financial industry. So that's your second $1 trillion mistake. My question is, how many more $1 trillion mistakes do we have to put up with?
But it's not easy running a third-party Senate race, and Barkley's navigating in uncharted waters. A campaign of unexpected fits and starts, literally brought home during our visit when his pontoon ran out of gas in the middle of the lake.
Uh-oh, I hope we're not out of gas. You drive and I'll pump.
Land ho, Senator!
Keep close to shore, so if we have to do it and have someone bring us some gas, we can do it. This is funny, running out of gas.
But like Barkley's other campaigns, what could have been a problem became a problem solved.
I just completely ran out of gas. Is there any chance you got just a little gas?
Without hesitation, Barkley jumps in the water.
You're a problem solver, Senator.
That's right. That's what I want to do.
Up the hill to a stranger. Within minutes, smooth sailing again. A symbol, Barkley hopes, for his independent voyage to win the Senate.
Barkley tells Pat if he doesn't win, he won't run for office again. But he says he'd work for Ventura again and try to get him to run for president.